and blood is thicker than water, so I'm going for me.
What?
With me a close second.
Hello and welcome to the next instalment of Moving the Spotlight. This week we have, I have to say, a special guest, but the person who probably does all the work in the band is the fourth member of Blue Nation and is my dad. So I'm going to bring him in now. Here he is, Mr. Ron Murdoch. There you are. Everyone can see your lovely face.
Hello there.
Look how happy he is. And also, I thought to add another twist to this, because me interviewing my dad, we need to give him some tough questions. I've got Mr. Luke Weston's here as well.
Hello. I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. It's been a while, hasn't it?
That's probably what he's happy about, though, isn't it? Not seeing us all the while.
Seeing me, yeah.
Oh, no. All right, okay, right. First question then. Who's your favourite member of Blue Nation? Let's go straight there.
Well, I have thought about this because I have surprisingly watched some of the other interviews, and I thought I better get this answer ready because you're bound to ask me.
Yep.
Now, it's a bit difficult because you've got Ben, Luke, and you in the band, and blood is thicker than water, so I'm going for me.
What?
With me a close second.
And the other
Ben, a
thing,
close
if
second.
I was forced to pick a band member, it would have to be Ben.
I knew
right?
it was going to be Ben. And do
On
you
the
know what?
basis that he's only been in the band a year and a bit and probably only played a handful of gigs, and he's not done anything wrong yet.
I knew that. I knew it was going to be Ben, Luke, because me and you give him too much jip. That's what
And the
it
other
is.
thing is, Luke's getting far too many votes.
I think you've got the most at the moment. It goes you, Luke, Ben, then me. I'm last at the moment.
I got off to a cracking start with 2 off the bat.
Yeah.
And then it went downhill.
Yeah.
Then it went downhill.
I think I thought about it and I thought, who can we get in to interview that's going to save me?
So you picked your best man.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Gits. That's not fair. Right. So I want to hear about, and me and Luke want to hear about, what it's like to manage us three amazingly brilliant people who are just easy to manage. So, but before we go there, should we start kind of like, because your music history, Dad, is like
Ancient.
no, it's not ancient. It's just you've seen some you've seen some like classic bands, haven't you? So is it?
Is it true? I've heard from certain sources that you were at the Crossroads with Robert Johnson.
Moving on.
He didn't deny it, Luke. He didn't deny it.
Actually, you're not far away there, because one of my favourite Cream tracks is Crossroads, and they covered Robert Johnson.
But actually, Willie Brown does sound kind of Scottish, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Oh my God, we've now got back. We've found the link.
We're going off piste now.
You know when I said we can meander wherever we want, Luke? This is just like straight off the track from where I go.
Okay, sorry.
This is just
This is too much for a Sunday afternoon.
This is a perfect insight into how every band meeting goes with us, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things, bringing you all back onto the topic.
He's about to say what's the hardest part about managing us as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keeping you on track.
This is why Ben's the favourite, because Ben just sits there and goes, listen to these two idiots just cracking on about it. Right, let's go back.
At least we've established that Ron was a really good harmonica player for Robert Johnson.
And he was at the Crossroads, and he was the devil.
Yeah.
Right, so let's go back then. So go back to your kind of first gigs and stuff in Scotland and stuff, because you've seen like loads of interesting people, haven't you?
Yeah, so I was born in Clydebank, just to give you a bit of geography. I was born in Clydebank, which is just outside Glasgow. I'm not really a Glaswegian. I'm fairly close, but not a Glaswegian. But clearly, Clydebank was a little town, so we used to go into Glasgow loads to see stuff and have a drink and all that kind of thing. In terms of the places we went, there was a club called the Maryland, and it was unlicensed, which was back in the day. It had a coffee bar, but it held about, I don't know, 250 people, something like that, 300 people. It wasn't huge, but it was the kind of in place to go. And it was like same as it is now. You had to know the bouncers to get in. All that kind of stuff is never gone away. But some of the bands that I saw there, you don't realise who you're seeing, because 5, 6, 10 years later, they're bloody huge. And I've got a list here, because
You've been prepared.
as you get older, your memory goes. I'd like to think it's only because I've been around longer and I've got more things to remember. So the bands that we saw were people like.
This is just like every single band meeting where he's got
Yeah,
reams of paper.
Because when those glasses go on, you're either getting a bollocking or you're getting told what to do.
Yeah, exactly. There
Normally a bollocking for me.
There was lots of bands went to the Maryland. A lot of local bands like Pathfinders, a band called Dream Police. And it's strange because I still remember the lead singers' names of those bands, which is crazy because I can't remember much stuff, really. My memory's not great because I just don't remember stuff. I've always been like that, mind you. So Pathfinders was a guy called Ian Clues. Dream Police, which I thought was a great name.
That is a good name.
For a band, Dream Police. The lead singer was a guy called Hamish Stewart.
It's got the most Scottish name ever.
Surprisingly, he was Scottish.
Yeah.
And he was ginger, right? And he had an afro, right? And it made Jimi Hendrix's afro look like a short back and sides. It was bloody huge.
Oh my
But
God.
he was a fabulous singer. And anyway, Hamish went on to front the Average White Band. He played with McCartney. He played Ringo Starr.
Was that Wings? Did he play with McCartney and Wings, or was it?
Yeah, he played with Chaka Khan as well. He played guitar in Average White Band, but then when he went to play with McCartney, he did bass. He played with bass.
Yeah,
and he was absolutely brilliant. He used to do a sit-down, stripped-down acoustic set in one of the local nightclubs on like a Tuesday night or something, and he just sat there on a stool, and he was just unbelievable. He's amazing, and people just used to go and see him. Apart from his band were really good as well. So that's what. And then we went to see him, Neil, didn't we, at the Jam House?
Yeah.
And I said to Neil, you know, it's always fatal, isn't it? We've got to go and see this guy. He's absolutely brilliant. And he was all right.
Yeah, but he was a lot older. I mean, and probably your memory of how old were you when you went to see him? 16, 17?
Yeah, 17, 18 maybe.
Yeah, and so you're not going to be sober,
He'd be much the same. He'd be much the same.
Yeah. So it's like anything, isn't it? It's like when we've seen bands before. I remember when you and I went to see Paul Weller, and I saw him like a couple of years before, and I said, "This is honestly, he's going to be amazing." We saw him and went, meh. You know, he probably just had an off night, didn't he? But didn't you see Cream?
Yeah, well, I was going to come on to that. The kind of
He's got the interview planned, Luke. I can't ask any questions.
Right. It was a club called the Maryland, and it was in the centre of Glasgow, just off Sauchiehall Street, and people like John Mayall. I saw John Mayall there with Mickey Taylor playing. He eventually ended up playing with the Stones, Mickey Taylor. I saw the Edgar Broughton Band. Muddy Waters was there. Graham Bond.
You see
Pete
Muddy
Brown.
Waters?
Yeah. Pete Brown, who wrote a lot of the stuff with Jack Bruce and Cream.
Yeah,
Uriah Heep. And this is a bit you'll like, Luke. Pink Floyd were there 3 times.
Did you see Floyd?
I can't remember them. That's the bad bit.
It's funny that a lot of people say that about Pink Floyd in that era.
And the other interesting story about the Maryland, why they played there, was they were banned from every other venue in Glasgow, so they wouldn't let them play.
Who Floyd were?
Pink Floyd were, yeah, and I don't know why, because I didn't think they were particularly
very good.
A rowdy band. But anyway,
they weren't.
The council wouldn't give them a license to play anywhere else, so they ended up at the Maryland.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of Cream, Cream were booked to play there, and I thought, okay, fine. A very small venue. But for some reason, I don't understand the reason. Top of the Pops insisted they did a bigger venue, I suppose because they were appearing on Top of the Pops, doing I Feel Free or something, like Strange Brew or something. So anyway, they ended up playing at Locarno in Glasgow, which is now called The Garage. It's still there. And it was, I can't remember, it was back in 67, I think, they played there. About 67 they played there. And we turned up, and by that point I was going out with a load of guys in a band, a bit the same as now, really. But I was going out a bit with a lot of guys in a band. And we all said, right, we've got to go and see Cream. It's a must. We've got to go and see them. So we did, some Tuesday night or something in May '67. And the support act was Long John Baldry, and his band were called Bluesology. And on keyboard was Reg Dwight, who ended up being Elton John. Yeah. I mean, he didn't realise it at the time, obviously. But Cream were absolutely stunning. And I've never seen an audience with so many blokes in it in my life. I can't remember seeing many females there at all. It was all lads coming to see Cream. And it was an absolutely brilliant gig. I mean, it stands as my... I wish I'd remembered it better. You know what I mean? It was one of those things you go to and you think... Now I think, I wish I'd taken it in more, you know. But that was just unbelievable.
So so if people don't know,
because Jack Bruce was from Glasgow, so it was a home gig for him, really.
Yeah, so if people don't know who Cream are, Cream is Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, possibly one of the biggest influences on us as a band, because they're a three-piece, and they all kind of have their own personality, their own style of playing. Like Ginger Baker was like jazz drums, Buddy Rich. Jack Bruce was just phenomenal. But Jack Bruce is one of your favourite players, isn't he, Luke? As well.
Yeah, Jack Bruce is. They called themselves Cream because the cream always rose to the top, didn't it? And they were the best musicians at the time, so they thought they'd get together. They're a super group, weren't they?
Yeah.
And Clapton, I mean, they all played with really good people. Clapton started playing when he was about 15, 16 with the Yardbirds.
Yeah.
And then he went through John Mayall and all those kind of things.
Jack Bruce was in Manfred Mann, wasn't he? Did he start in Manfred Mann? Or
I think he did.
I'm guessing he was doing stuff.
Is that Jack Bruce? Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
In Manfred Mann. But he went to music college in Glasgow College of Music, and I think he got kicked out, which is, usually what happens. But he was very much in, and it was interesting. I don't know if you've heard this one, Luke, but Jack Bruce, I heard him once say that his favourite bass, not player, but bass composer was Bach. He said, Bach writes the best bass lines you've ever heard. So they were all into the classical side of things.
That was just before Clapton
they came together, and they were just called Cream because they were just the best of the best. The thing that caused, though, was they couldn't play together, they couldn't live together because they just fell out.
Well, Ginger Baker ain't the easiest person to get on with, is he? From what Jack Bruce and all those guys have said. But was that just before Clapton was like Clapton is God? Because Clapton was God was in the Yardbirds, wasn't it?
No. That was with John Mayall.
Ah, right, yeah.
So that Clapton is God was before Cream.
Can you imagine that though? Clapton, Bruce, and Ginger Baker, and you can't remember the gig.
I can remember it.
What's the one thing you can remember from the gig? Like where were you where were you standing, and where was Clapton?
So that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I was standing in the Locarno. It was a typical big ballroom. I mean, there was Locarno all over the country, and it had got a balcony all the way around. So we thought, we know what we'll do. We'll stand above the band, which is the worst thing to do. Stand above the band for a bit, and we stood above the band. The thing I remember about it was we were standing right above Ginger Baker, and he'd got legs the thickness of pencils, right? He was really thin. And we were sitting right above him, and you could see his double bass drums, and you can actually see him playing the double bass drums with his 2 feet. And he probably didn't need to use his hands because his bass drums were like amazing. And that's what sticks in my head. You could just see the speed and the accuracy, and hitting his hi hat with his foot and all that. It was just unbelievable. But yeah, so it was not so much that we stood in the wrong place. I just didn't take it in. I didn't realise how influential it would be, and and they only lasted 2 years, effectively. They came back and did a few, things at the Albert Hall and Madison Square Garden 40 years later, but,
Can you remember?
Did you see any of that, Ron? The reunion gig?
I've got it on DVD. I did toy with the idea of buying Albert Hall tickets, but at the time they were like $2.50 each or something stupid.
Yeah, I really wanted to. Same as the Zeppelin one, though. I wanted to go, but I can't afford $2.50. And what really annoyed me was the fact that it said Cream with Eric Clapton on the ticket, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, I beg to differ that Eric Clapton's more important than Jack Bruce or Ginger Baker, but
No, well, Bruce did most of the singing because at that time Clapton was always very shy, and he could never really front it in terms of vocally. So it was always Bruce. But then in latter years he started getting a bit more confident and actually taking the vocals on his own when he was in his own bands and stuff. Interestingly, I went to see Clapton in Nottingham, when he was doing his kind of his own band, if you like. And he played a lot of blues, which is not surprising because that's what he likes. And I was a bit disappointed because it was just blues, you know. It was fun playing it, but it was a little bit kind of like, oh, I don't know about this. I just like the music that Cream wrote.
Yeah, there's only so many 12 bars you can listen to in a row, isn't it?
Exactly, especially after an hour and a half, you know. It's got
The thing with Clapton, though, is, well, he doesn't interact, he just plays. So you'll come on stage and just play. So I think if you're if you love guitar, if you love licks and stuff like that, it's great to listen to. It's great to kind of sit. But as you said, Luke, like an hour and a half, and you're like, okay, it's kind of the same basic structure as the first song we heard, and kind of most people there are waiting for Layla and Crossroads and I Shot the Sheriff anyway.
That later stuff. That was later. That's much later than Cream.
That was Derek and the Dominoes, wasn't it, Layla? And stuff like that.
Yeah. And Delaney and Bonnie. Yeah, so the Maryland Club had got lots of people coming round and touring bands and all this kind of thing. The guy who ran it was a typical kind of venue owner. He knew everybody. He knew exactly what the up-and-coming bands were. Wasn't licensed, as I said earlier, so it was, you literally went for the music and to meet people. Interestingly, I saw the Move there. They came up to Glasgow about kind of like Flowers in the Rain type of... That kind
68, 69?
Yeah, and it was at a time when Carol Wayne was still smashing up TVs. I didn't quite get that. I didn't understand that. And to be honest, the stage was minute. It was probably about, I don't know, 10 metres by 6 metres or something, you know. And he was smashing up these tellies, which I thought was a bit dangerous because he was using like an axe or a bloody hammer or something. But so that was okay. There was always a bit of resistance against the move because a story got out that they'd actually bought their way to #1 by buying all the records. That was a time if you went to a record shop and bought a record, it got recorded against the charts.
Well, wasn't that true?
Yes, it was. The story goes that they spent 10 grand buying their own records.
Yeah.
So that was a bit. Everybody went, oh, you know, I don't know. But anyway, and they were
who gave them the money for that?
Label.
And they were from England, so you know they were up against it really. But they went down well. Interestingly, about 40 years later, you were playing with Trevor Button quite a lot, weren't you, Neil? Doing acoustic stuff and supporting his own band, the Trevor Button Band, who was in the Move when I saw them. And I said to Trevor, I said, hey, I saw you in the Move in the Maryland in Glasgow. He said, I remember that gig. I thought, yeah, bullshit. He said, no, I do, honestly. He said, and I tell you why I remember. It was called the Maryland. And there was a gang in Glasgow called the Mary Hill Fleet. So they had adopted the Maryland as their go-to base in Glasgow. And he said, they come up to us when we went there for the sound check. He said, all right, lads, he said, we'll look after you. Don't worry, you'll have no hassle here. We're a gang. We're going to sort you out. And if anybody messes with you, let us know and we'll sort it for you. So Trevor actually remembered that gig because of the interaction with the local gang. There was never any trouble in there.
Well, no wonder, because the gang was running it. That's why.
Well, exactly. But I was amazed that Trevor, 40 years later, actually remembered doing that gig in Glasgow.
Well, that's where I basically learned my stagecraft, because is it every other Monday? Was it every other Monday?
It was a kind of a student night, didn't it?
I think it was every Monday.
Was it the Actress and Bishop, wasn't it? Wasn't it a Sunday?
No, Monday. It was every Monday, and it was upstairs in the Actress and Bishop, and 1 week was full band and 1 week was acoustic, so I alternate. So literally every Monday I was gigging for about 2 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot of gigs.
Yeah, so Trev, I basically learned how to handle an audience and deal with an audience, because every Monday I was in front of an audience, and
I must have.
You must have been there. You must have been there, mate, because everyone used to sit down, didn't they?
Yeah. It was
and smoke.
Sat across the front, and Canadian Trev did the sound.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. I swear. Yeah, it's a very long time ago, though, isn't it? And yeah.
But that's what I basically learned my stagecraft, and I never forget when I was playing, everyone would just sit down on the front row and just smoke a joint when you could smoke inside, and then I'd just be like, this is the weirdest gig ever, and I'd have to get all these people sitting down smoking a joint to be interested in me playing when they wanted to listen to Trev. And it was every Monday, it was packed as well, wasn't it? Every single Monday it was absolutely
and they were dead
packed.
quiet as well.
Yeah.
And they listened, which was great. Which is, I suppose, if you're on stage, can be a bit scary, because normally, you know, people are making noise and that, so it kind of breaks up. If they sit there and actually listen quietly, it's a bit spooky, I think. If you're, I mean, I don't know, I don't play, but it must be a bit spooky if you're on stage when they're just sitting there listening.
It is strange, We tend to get it a lot though.
Yeah.
You know, the funniest one was the Von Hertzen brothers when we played with them.
Yeah.
Do you remember it, Neil?
Yeah.
We played
Deathly
one song,
quiet.
and normally after the first song, when you're a support band, you get people, you know, you can hear the hustle and bustle in the back. We played this song, and it was like, while we were talking, and it's
that was actually my favourite Blue Nation gig so far, ever.
My dad says it's his favourite Blue Nation gig as well.
For lots of reasons. If you can just indulge me, and I'll tell you a little story. Because I look after the bookings and all that, I deal with the people who are sorting it all out. So he gets there. Von Hertzen, who I'd never, to be honest, heard of, but they're a Finnish rock band who are really good, have been number ones and all that kind of stuff.
Nice people as well.
Yeah, they are. So he turns up. There's supposed to be 4 bands on the list. So he turns up, and the guy said, one band's not turning up, so that's down to 3. So I thought, okay, fine. So we'll adjust the running order and all that kind of stuff. Then the other band didn't turn up either. So it ended up with Von Hertzen brothers and you as main support.
Yeah.
So instead of doing 30 minutes, which was, you know, the second on or third on slot or whatever, he actually ended up doing 45 officially. The reality is the sound engineers liked you so much that you did 55 minutes, and afterwards they said to me, we didn't want to tell him to come off because we were enjoying it. Now, that just about sums it up. And the other thing, somebody said to me much later, who saw you there and still come to the gigs, and he said, I know it was going to go well when they used Led Zeppelin as a walk-on song. He said, I just knew it was going to be good. I thought you played really, really well. Everything just clicked from a kind of a disaster start, you know, going from 4 bands to just one support. It actually turned out, the sound was great, the engineers were great, everything just fell into place. And Von Hertzen brothers were amazing. They were really nice guys.
Did we come off a tour? Was that like one of the last nights of a tour, like with Dirty Thrills or something like that? Because
I can't remember. I know it was Ben from Inspired Artist Agencies who got the gig, because he's mates with their manager, Seven Webster. He got you the gig, and I thought, well, what's all this about? You know. And anyway, we did it. It was at the O2 Institute in Berlin.
Yeah, I just remember us. I remember being very comfortable, and I just remember not. This is going to sound weird, Luke. You'll probably agree, but I didn't really have to play. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have to force anything. I think, all right, okay, I'm going to this bit next. It all kind of just happened, didn't it? It's really weird.
Yeah. I can't remember. We might have had a run of gigs coming up to before, but that's always the case, isn't it? Once you've played a couple of gigs, it seems like it's natural, isn't it? Then when you get on stage, first couple of gigs
just fell into place.
Yeah,
you know, from what could have been a disaster, it ended up it still is my favourite gig.
I'm always happy to play more songs anyway.
Oh yeah, we always seem to do better though when we're under pressure though. Or if we've had like a shorter sound check or stuff. I always find that when we don't have enough time to think about it, I always seem we play better. Like that could be a complete misconception from me.
I think it's kind of like when the level that we're at, and we support a lot of bands. You kind of get messed about a bit, can't you?
Yeah.
Like, because you're the support band, you're kind of like cannon fodder, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I think we kind of we rise above it, and we just want to play our music, and we do what we're good at, and that's what we are good at.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember something else about the Von Hertzen gig. And typically on these gigs, you get metal barriers all around the stage and down the side. And about 10 minutes into the gig, I thought, who's that lot standing round the side? And it was actually Von Hertzen guys who came out because they'd heard you play, and they came out. And I said to you, why did you come? He said, they were just so good. We had to come out and actually see them rather than just hear them. Now that's the kind of thing that you think, okay, so they must be doing something right then.
Yeah.
So that all those kind of good comments, you know, it makes it kind of worthwhile, really.
So do you want to talk about not how you know us, because you know me because I'm your son, but do you want to talk about like what you do day to day, your kind of job and stuff like? Because it's kind of easy for us because we just write the songs but you literally sort everything. So do you want to take us through a typical week, typical year, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. A typical day.
Yeah. Stay at home. So many years ago when you first started, you had a girl as a manager.
Oh yeah.
And you did a gig at Rosie's. Is it not Rosie's? Whatever it was called in Solihull.
Rosie's nightclub. Yeah.
Yeah, Rosie's nightclub, and that was about '97, I think. Anyway,
Rosie's, God.
Yeah. So then you said, "Would you help us out?" So that's how I got involved. Helping out ended up,
full-time job.
Get slightly more involved. But yeah, so then some time ago, we decided that trying to get all band members to chip in for recording and all that kind of stuff didn't really work, because there was always somebody who couldn't afford it and it held everybody else back. So we decided to take that away from the band, and we created what we call our version of a 360 degree. Now, 360 degree from a record company point of view is they give the band a load of money, but then they take all of the money from the gigs, from the merch, from record sales, whatever it may be, from the music, from publishing, whatever, and then they get the money back. So we did that in terms of, we decided that the band wouldn't have to pay for anything except their music, their instruments, the rehearsal space, travel, and accommodation when on tour. So everything else, like recording, merch, and all that kind of stuff, we fund it. So there's no blockage in doing stuff. Was the kind of theory behind that. So consequently, we've put a lot of money into the band, and it comes back. Yeah, I won't even tell you how much, but anyway, we put a lot of money into the band, but it does stop any blockages, so we can plan things a lot better. The other thing
it does work well as well. I've got to admit it works. It just helps. It does help.
And the other thing I've said to many people, and Luke's heard this and Neil's heard this before, it must be the cheapest band to be in, because all you do is pay for your instruments, travel, and accommodation.
It is. It is.
And the money does come back in, so it's not outgoing. It does come back in, but anything that does come in from merch, etc., goes to pay off the debt, as it were, the national debt, as I call it. But then at the same time, we decided to split the responsibilities, and we said, right, Neil and the band and I will do the music and write music, play it, etc., music-related stuff. I can have a comment, or might get asked about what I think, etc. But basically that's it. And I would look after everything else, all the business side of things, all the finance side of things.
All the hard work.
Yeah, the daily kind of, if you want to call it, operational stuff that makes a band work. And that I think that works quite well. In fact, not blowing my own trumpet, but I will. Many promoters have actually said, we love working with you guys. The band are great. So it's not just me. The band are great. They're easy to work with. And you turn up when you say you're going to do it. You do what you say you're going to do. And you're absolutely no hassle. It's a delight to work with you. So we must be doing something right jointly.
It makes it easier, to be fair. I know I've got a foot in kind of both camps, because obviously you and I are the funding side of the label and stuff, but then when we make a profit, that gets split four ways equally between us. But
the other thing we did, we created a label, didn't we? Box Seat Records, and I keep all the spreadsheets and all that with all the finances in. And one of the other things we established early days was rules of engagement, for lack of a better term, which a lot of bands split up because they don't have any rules to work to, or any kind of process. And we wrote down a lot of things about how people should behave, what they should do, if you agree to a gig, you do it, and all that kind of stuff. That just takes, if you do that when you've not got a problem, it's much easier to deal with when it comes up. The other thing we did, we worked out that because different people write different parts of songs, etc., to make it fair, we split it all out so we can any publishing deals or anything like that come up in the future, everybody gets a fair share. Whilst there's still a debt, nobody, including myself, get paid for anything until that debt is paid off, and then we split it as soon as there's a positive balance, if you want to call it that.
So buy some merch, folks.
Yeah.
Please.
Pretty well as far as I'm concerned. So that's the kind of management side of it. In terms of anything else, I mean, it's kind of getting involved with the grown-ups, as I call it. People say to me, what do you do as manager? And I said, all the shit that they don't want to do, basically. It's where the way I look at it. That's very simplistic. And it's not, I quite enjoy it, actually. Because although I played in a couple of bands when I was younger, I was never any good. So I decided that I'd stick to my forte, which was organising things and stuff like that. So in terms of gigs and all that, I look towards different promoters. I've got to know loads of promoters and loads of venues and stuff. And even if somebody contacts one of the band members, they'll say to me, by the way, Joe Bloggs is interested in booking us for a gig. Can you sort it out? And I just take over and organise all the logistics and talk to them about what they want, when they want it, and all that kind of stuff. So the band don't have to worry about that mundane stuff. It just happens. So I talk to them. We get bookings, and we look at different things. What should we do this even? I will always never turn down a gig without telling them, but I will always say, we've had this offer of a gig, but I don't really think it's for you. Yeah, we agree. That kind of thing. That's the way it goes. But when we do accept a gig, I think in the years I've been involved, I think we've only ever not turned up once. And I think that was when you were really ill, remember?
I was ill. Yeah, I couldn't sing.
Move. It was like flu symptoms. And that was the only time. So once we take on a gig, 99.99% of the time we'll do it.
But we also told them as well. We didn't just not turn up. We just
play hide and seek.
Yeah.
The promoter.
Did you actually lost your voice, I think? So that was a bit of a drawback, really.
That was bliss when it ran.
we did actually. I tell you now, we did actually consider doing it instrumental, and we did because I remember you saying to me, it was like, what if you just like did the riffs and we did instrumental? And I literally couldn't move because I had like the flu. I was like, I can't lift my head. So, and we were actually thinking about that, and it's a lot of bands, and we've come across it without naming names, where we've been with people on tour or whatever, and they pull out of gigs at the slightest drop of the hat. I don't think it's fair. And you've always instilled that in all of us to say, look, you say yes to this, you're doing it. You are doing it, right? So you can't say yes and then back out or whatever. Or if you get, and one of the big things you always say to us, look, if a better offer comes along, we're not dropping this to do something else. We're doing this. We have to hold our integrity throughout all of this with promotion.
I mean, if it was a real big opportunity, I would probably have a conversation with the guy we booked it with and say, look, realistically, we've got a gig with Muse or something. Could we?
Have we got a gig with Muse?
Could we pass? Could we pass on the actress?
I've always wanted to show the bass player of Muse how to play as well.
You want to go there? I'm not a fan of it. Anyway,
I'm not even.
So that's how we do the gigs. In terms of the logistics, if we're going on tour, I tend to work out the hotels and the route we're going to go on and what time we need to be there, what equipment we need. I talk to the other bands, talk to the promoters, talk to the venues. Do we need a drum kit? All the kind of niche detail
that just makes
it that you don't do. That makes it so easy when you turn up. We've had a couple of bands that have turned up on a gig and said, "Could I borrow your guitar? Could I borrow your plectrum? Could I borrow your leads? We've not got ours." I don't think we've ever done that.
Even to the point.
Word of warning: if you are in a band and you have to ask another band to borrow a guitar or a plectrum,
you're not in a band.
Don't be in a band.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah. How hard can it be? Is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
But it's even down to at gigs as well, because the way we've got it organised is that if we're at a gig and someone wants it's always drums, isn't it? It's to be fair, it is always drums. It's always, can I borrow your hi-hat? Can I borrow your clutch? Can I borrow your bass pedal? Can I borrow your stool? So to be fair, I do feel sorry for drummers and Ben and Chris previously, where they just get constantly asked for stuff. I think I've been asked twice, can I borrow your guitar or borrow a plectrum or borrow a lead in like the 25 odd years I've been doing this. Normally it's lead or amp, isn't it, to be fair, Luke? Or it's normally the amp. Can I borrow your amp?
Yeah, I've got a spare amp.
Yeah.
It's generally, I think, guitarists, they do share amps sometimes, but generally you take your own, don't you?
Yeah.
Whereas the back line is drums and bass amp, isn't it?
Even when we're at gigs, though, if someone wants to borrow stuff, we don't sort it out, do we? We go speak to our manager. No. It's just because.
Yeah. And that usually stops the conversation because they thought, I'm not going to talk to him.
Go speak to the Scottish guy over there. See him over there. That's who you need to speak to.
He looks a bit miserable. I'm not talking to him.
And he's in a corner growling.
Yeah. While sticking the and the merch as well, putting the merch out.
Yeah. It's but you got on with Brian Downey's manager, didn't you?
He was all right, actually.
He scared the shit out of me.
Apart from telling me that we were selling the T-shirts too quick, it was making his look expensive. Which is a good point.
Yeah. But
so that kind of thing, and then packing up and coming home and working out the routes. And I've always said, as long as I can do it, I'll drive if I can get everybody in the car, because I don't think it's fair that you go and do a whole day traveling around doing a gig, because the energy involved in that is like quite a lot. And then try and drive home from, I don't know, Manchester or whatever. So I will always try and do that as long as I can. So
it just makes life easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got no comparison. I've got no comparison because I've never been in a band. I've never managed. A lot of people say, "Would you manage another band?" And I said no, because I wouldn't be focused on it. I'm not in it for management. I'm in it because I want to help the guys. I mean, what's it? Do you think, Luke? Because I'm interviewing you. You've been in lots of bands, haven't you?
I've been in loads. I've been in a lot of the time. A lot of the bands I've been in, it's always been me. I've always took the initiative to book the gigs, sort out rehearsals, do everything, logistics. My dad's always helped me a lot. My dad's always been my roadie because he's
helped us loads as well. To be fair, isn't he?
Yeah. Dad just loves music, and he loves the fact that I'm in a band. He used to roadie for a guy called Raymond Froggatt years and years ago, so he just likes being involved in it. But what I will say, it's absolutely soul destroying being in a band and sorting everything out when no one else is pulling the weight.
Yeah.
Could be, you kind of get a little bit of resentment, like when you book a gig and people are like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that. It's not big enough." It's like, well, a gig is a gig. My mantra is you always play a gig, and a gig is a gig. Even if you're playing a 3-year-old's birthday party, you turn up and you play because, Don Arden's grandson could be there. Then he could sign you to Geffen Records and rob you of all the pennies you own.
But you're not singing.
But the thing is, it's still that opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what Ron does, it just makes life so much easier because I can just be a bass player. I can be,
and that's what I try and do. I mean, while I was thinking about this interview, I thought about Bill Shankly, and you might say, why do you do that? Well, because I remember Bill Shankly. He was famous for good quotes. And he turned around and somebody said to him, "Why are Liverpool so good?" That was when they were winning European Cups and all that, just the best team in England.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'll tell you why we're the best team, because the tea lady makes great tea." And they went, "What?" And he said, "Well, she makes great tea. That's the standard we all need to meet.
Yeah.
So if everybody does their job properly and meets that high standard of the tea lady, we'll be in a good place." I've always remembered that. If everybody, because it's not just only one person writing songs or playing or whatever. It's everybody. It's a gang, innit?
Yeah.
And I think if everybody does their bit is to the best of their ability, then you won't go far wrong.
It's not about life and death. It's more important than that.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But it's it kind of instilled in us though, isn't it, for everything we do? Because we'll come off stage, and I know there's a couple of people I'll always go to. You being one. Obviously me, Jez being another, because it will be an absolute brutally honest how we've played on stage. There'll be no sugarcoating. There'll be no, because when we normally speak to fans and stuff like that, and I always put my mum into this as well. My mum, I could do the worst gig possible. My mum will find the one thing I did well that night because that was brilliant, and then not to aware. I'll come off stage, say with you, and go right, and I'll always say to you, Dad, how was that? And you'll be like, or it will be.
I'll say what happened to the chords in that song.
Yeah, you go, but you were like 90% great. That song, what the hell is that? That wasn't right. It didn't feel right. And the thing is, I already know, right? So I already know.
Yeah.
Because we already do on stage, don't we, Luke? We know when we mess something up. So,
when you bum a note, yeah.
If you take let's look at the Dead Wax gig, right? We played I Feel Low, and we messed up the coming back in. Because it's quite a hard one to get back into once you do the crowd participation. Now,
who messed it up?
Me. It was me that messed it up. Yeah.
Messing up is not exclusive to any one band member.
No, it was just I literally, because Ben came in right, you came in, and I was just like, I'm just left behind, going, shit, I should have come in then. It's just like, but no one would have noticed that because you just kind of lean on the other two. So you and Ben covered my arse, right?
Yeah,
and it's happened, other way around, But I'll come off, and the first you were like, "What happened to the middle bit?" And I feel low. And you're like, yeah, I messed it up. But then everything else was like, but no one else would see that as well. But having that kind of honesty, and your dad's the same. Will go, "How was that?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was all right." He'll probably be less cutting or less to the point.
Yeah.
But then when you do a good gig like the Von Herzen brothers, and you come off, and you kind of know, I don't ask. If I know I've done a good gig, I won't ask, because you kind of don't want to spoil the, oh shit, we've done a good gig. But I remember you, Dad, coming up to me and Jez going, "Oh my God, that was amazing."
It was. That's why I liked that gig.
I was just like, I can't tell you why it was. It just literally all clicked and stuff like that. But because you do, obviously, I was thinking about this as well, Dad. So you deal with PR companies, promoters, agents, travel, hotels, festivals, artwork, digital distribution, physical distribution, merchandise, driving us. What's the best bit of being a manager of us, and what's the worst bit? Start with best bit, because I know the worst bit.
I think the best bit is when it all comes together, like the Von Herzen gig. Now, I'm not saying every other gig was rubbish. I'm saying, that just stands out as there wasn't any mistakes. It was a perfect storm from a potentially really bad start. Yeah, it ended up as a really good gig. So I think I don't get. I mean, I'm not on stage, so I've got no right to be. I wouldn't say I get nervous. I get kind of anxious about have I got everything? Have I remembered this? Have I remembered that? And, we got everything. What time do we need to be there? So that's not stressful, but it's just your head spinning with all that kind of stuff.
You go into gig mode, don't you?
Yeah, when we get there and you lot play, and after about 2 or 3 songs, I can tell how it's going to go. And the best bit is just watching it live, basically. I mean, I actually don't listen to much music. A lot of people say, "What you listen to now?" I said, "Not a lot, really." "What, really?" And I said, "No, I don't." I said, "But I don't listen to much. I like live music." So that's probably the best bit. When a plan comes together, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, you get it for free as well. That's the main thing, isn't it? That's the
free, yeah. I won't tell you how much it's cost me to get there. Yeah. There you go.
I get to see all of these bands.
Yeah.
And the same one every single time.
It's just a big applause, isn't it? I think you drive us about just so you can go and see different bands.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. I could just buy a ticket though, couldn't I? Yeah, so I think that's the main thing when it all comes together, because I know, and you do as well. I know you don't get involved in a day-to-day, but I know how much goes into organising stuff and all that. So when all that planning and all that work comes to fruition, and a tour comes off, and the band you're touring with are really nice, and all that kind of stuff, that's the best bit, I think. Probably the worst bit, and I don't know how you know what I'm going to say, but the worst bit is dealing with people that don't do what they say they're going to bloody do.
I knew that was going to be the answer, because it's the main thing you say to me when we speak about the plans and what we're doing.
Yeah, do you know what that tosser said today?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
And I say, look, don't be so mean to Luke. He said,
I'm generally good.
Well, yeah. And to be honest, if you were a bunch of idiots, I wouldn't work with you. I'll tell you that now, because there's no point. It would just be too hard. So I think we're all on the same page, and I think we all kind of like understand where we're trying to get to and what we're trying to do, and et cetera, et cetera. But the most frustrating and worst thing is when people say they'll do something and don't, and when people are supposed to do something, "I'll get back to you with an answer on Friday," and then you've got to chase them the following Tuesday. Where's the answer?
Yeah,
that's so frustrating, and in my opinion, unprofessional. If you're going to be in this industry and you put yourself up there as a promoter, an agent, a venue manager, whatever you are, you've got to do it to the best of your ability, and I don't think everybody does that. And maybe it's because I'm just applying my standards on them, but I can do that because I want to.
It's the music industry as well, isn't it? It's like
it's a bit like,
it's so flaky.
It's respect as well, though, isn't it? If someone messages you, just message him back.
Exactly.
Even if it's a no.
One of the things that winds me up generally, not just about this, it's about when you send something to somebody and they don't reply, and that means no.
Yeah.
Why don't you just reply and say no? You know.
Yeah, we're big boys. We can take this.
Yeah, we can take it. You know. Yeah. But when they don't reply, that is the modern way of saying no, bog off. Just can't be doing with that. I really can't. Fairly honest and open, and that's the way I like to work. But not everybody does that. So.
Yeah.
So with again, pandemic-wise, COVID stuff, because that kind of threw everyone's plans out the water, didn't it? What did it mean for us? And explain to people kind of where we were, what we were doing, and then how you've had to change and move and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So every year we kind of review the previous year. Not totally formally, but in a chat with the band at the rehearsal area and stuff, and we review the previous year. We look at what we're going to do next year. So you kind of put some plans and ideas and aspirations in place, play with bigger bands, and get somebody to do the shit I do, all that kind of stuff. So we do that. Now this year gigs stopped almost, well, not almost immediately in March. I ended up with people talking about, can we move it a month? Can we move it 2 months? Oh, we need to move that again. So some gigs have kind of moved 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Festivals are just mostly moved into 2022. Some of them have moved twice now because they thought they might be able to do them. So all I've been doing is moving stuff around in a diary and trying to keep on top of that. The other thing we were planning to do probably earlier in the year was record an EP. We've been looking at various studios and all that kind of stuff. But because you lot can't rehearse, you can't expect to go from no rehearsal straight into recording. You've got to record. You've got to spend some time together. You can't expect to go from no rehearsal straight into gigs. You probably need. It's a bit like the theatre have said. They can't reopen in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
They need 3 months or thereabouts to get back up to speed. And it's exactly the same for you lot. So really, we're still in that kind of moving stuff around. Basically, in terms of what it's done, we've just been sitting on our hands, really. I know that you and Luke and Ben have been talking about writing stuff and all that kind of stuff in the background you can do remotely. And I know you've been doing the acoustic stuff on a Thursday night. So just keeping in touch with people and putting stuff in social media. But basically, normal band life doesn't exist at the moment. But hopefully, if everybody is sensible and does what they're told and the spike doesn't come back, we might be kind of a bit more freer after June. So the second part of this year might be good. Certainly, I've never known so many gigs confirmed so far away. I mean, 2022 has got lots of gigs in it. That would not have been the case. Now the good thing is, from a festival point of view, the festival promoters and festival organisers have basically said, right, you couldn't do it this year, but we'll keep you on the list for next year. So they've just moved the whole thing by 1 year or whatever. So that's good. You haven't lost your place in the festivals you were on anyway. So that's good. But it's just marking time, sitting on your hands, as I say, really. To be honest, like everybody, nobody's any different.
It is difficult, and and I think it's one of the things you manage with us well is the kind of anticipation as well, because as you said, look, we just want to play what's going on, what's happening. So and when we always say to you, look, what's going on with this, what's happening, can you just give us the latest? Because you always get snippets of, are you going to support this band, or this someone's shown interest in you in this opportunity and stuff like that. And I think Sandy asked me the question. She goes, "What would you guys do if you got the call to support Foo Fighters and stuff like that?" And I said, "Well, first of all, we wouldn't get the call. It wouldn't be me, Luke, or Ben that got the call. It would be you, and we'd sit down and look at it and be kind of quite analytical about it and go through it that way." But how do you manage kind of what you tell us, how you tell us, and what stage you tell us? Because you know a lot more than us, because you see the different levels it's at, because you don't want to get us too excited about something if it's not going to happen, or that kind of stuff.
Well, I kind of, yes, I do know quite a lot of things, but not as much as not as much as you probably think. because I don't tend to hang around. If somebody says I want them to play here, I'll put pressure on them to say, right, when is it, where is it, date, time, all that kind of stuff. And as soon as that becomes confirmed, you know, like typically Carlo from Birmingham Promoters will send me an email, say, that's nailed down then. You know, that's the way him saying it's confirmed or whatever. That's nailed down. So I would then pass that on to you and say, look, we've got this offer of a gig, da-di-da-di-da, you're okay, diary's free. Well, that's the other thing I do, just look after the diary as well. Just in a spare moment.
On the list.
So I look in the diary and say, yeah, that's okay, I'll need to check with the guys though, da-di-da-di-da. And then that's when you get to know. So it's not a long time in between. The number of times we get opportunities that never come to anything though. People saying, you know, especially at gigs, they'll come up and say, oh, really great, I love it. We'll get back to you. I'm a such and such. I can do a lot of your daddy. You never hear a bloody word. So there's no point having those conversations. You get a feel. Over the years, you get a feel for what's going to happen next.
Everything anyone has ever promised me at a gig, it is taken with tiniest little pinch of salt.
The best ever happened to me when we were in New York. This guy came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you're amazing. I work for Sony," and I was like, "Oh my God, you work for Sony? This is amazing." And he gave me a business card.
I sell record decks.
No, he gave me his business card, and he'd scribbled out his job and just put Sony Music. And I was like, if that doesn't typify the music industry at this level, you know, years ago, I was like, oh, cool, mate, yeah, give me a call when this, that, the other. It's like, oh my God, it was ridiculous.
There are exceptions, and the one that sticks in my head is that when you did the thing for Sandy, which was the Childline thing, a guy who was doing the stage and sound, Pete, he came up and he said, really like these guys. I put on a festival called Redfest. He said, and I'll contact you. And I thought, in one ear, out the other, you know, because fair enough. And to be fair to him, he got all the slots filled for that particular year, but the next year got an email. This is Pete here. Would you like to play Redfest? And you've played it, 3-4 times now?
Yeah. Well, the last one was 5,000 people as well, supporting Top Loader and Main Sport. They've asked us to play again, haven't they? Have they asked us to play again?
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be this year, but obviously.
Who was headlining that one?
Top Loader.
Well, it's Top Loader, and then Newton Faulkner did one.
Yeah. No, I mean the one that was meant to happen.
Oh God, I can't remember.
I can't remember. Did we not?
Erased that from my mind. Can't remember.
Was it Boomtown Rats?
No, that was a different one, which we're still playing.
Okay.
No, I can't remember, to be honest.
That's something. Yeah, but yeah, that's now in 2022. That gig, I think.
Yeah, it is.
You see, stuff we do know. I don't remember anything.
Ron knows what I'm doing more than I do.
I just wish I knew what I was doing.
So
it's just an illusion.
With all that stuff, then, like if anyone's in a band or if anyone is thinking of getting a manager or stuff like that, or you know they're in the position Luke explained about, like there's one member of the band doing it. What's the one piece of advice you'd give a band or a musician or an artist about the music industry or getting a manager, or what's the one thing that's always kind of set you right?
I think if you're in a band and you're trying to get somebody to manage you, or even if it's not as strong as manage, just help you with the kind of stuff I do, is get somebody you can trust.
Yeah.
Because you will be ripped off, whether it be your music, the publishing rights, whatever it is. Get somebody you can absolutely trust with your life savings, and if you can pass that test, you'll probably be all right.
Yeah.
I think the other thing in terms of bands is get yourself organised, anticipate problems in the future, about band members being idiots and all that kind of stuff.
Luke is talking about you there.
No, I like Luke. He's all right.
It's just that it's when we do make money.
Yes, Neil and I have already had that conversation.
I've told you, mate. You're going on a salary. I tell you what. To be fair, I am as well. I mean, I know we've So I'm doing that.
Do I have to apply to get that Jag E type?
Yeah.
You have to apply for your own job. No, so I think get things sorted out early days, because if you don't, it will end up in loads of problems. I mean, we've all heard about bands who have, they've gone into record, they've got a publishing deal, they can't agree for instance, who's written which part of a song, who did the riff, who did the verse, who did the chorus, da-di-da-di-da.
Yeah.
And I know, I don't know them, I heard that one band were actually in a recording studio and they just broke up halfway through the recording because they couldn't agree who was getting what split.
We still need to do that, Luke, with the new songs. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's all me, isn't it?
It's all you. How dare you?
And if you do those kind of rules in the cold light of day before there's an issue, it will stand you in good stead. So that'd be two things: trust who you're working with, and that's at all levels, not just manager. All the people around the patch. And then, as I say, make sure you're all on the same page, understanding what you're there for and what's expected of you.
I think it's doing that
and
before
what's expected of each other.
Yeah, I think it's doing it before the money is there as well. I found. So if you sort all that stuff out when there's no money involved, you're because we did it for the Caftan Society, didn't we? We sat down and went through it and literally went, right, who's this, who did this, and then we did the percentages of the deal. I mean, that was just in case we got a publishing deal. And
it's all a bit forensic, but I tell you what, it saves a lot of hassle.
And we're going to do it.
I'm quite happy to share the debt. You know what I mean? If you're not getting any profit, but you can share the debt with you.
I think the main thing about this band is the fact that, okay, it would be lovely to make a couple of quid, but it's so much more about the music, really. Yeah. We just want to do the music.
You can enjoy what you're doing, and now it would be nice to make something out of it. It's not costing you a shed load of money not to make any money. That's the main thing, I suppose.
That's it. I mean, I dislike money. I really dislike money. It pays for me to live and buy food and stuff. But generally, I like to look at money as fun coupons.
Folding beer vouchers.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That explains so much about your personality, Luke. Right there, right then. So I just see it's falling. Remember that, Dad. When it comes to that massive publishing deal. I've got you 4 beer tokens, Luke, and that's what you got for this publishing.
Because you wrote the first two notes in the riff.
Don't worry about that 3 million there. You don't want that. That's too many tokens.
No, that's a lot of fun coupons, those.
Oh, God.
How many fun coupons did you earn today?
That's
3
what
million.
Look at it. I'll tell you now. I'm going on the salary. I'm asking for a salary. I am not. No one. When we make all those squillions of dollars and pounds and stuff with the next release, I'm going to be like, right, Dad, you're in charge of this money. Literally, just give me money every year, so I can live and I'll be fine.
What a lot of people out there probably don't realise, when somebody comes and joins a big band who are well established, they don't tend to get a share unless they write something. They tend to be on a salary.
Yeah.
Like a job. You're employed as guitarist, backing singer for this band.
They call them hired guns,
band. You get a salary. A lot of people don't realise it. They probably think, they get a share of everything. They don't. They don't. Definitely don't.
I don't think many people realise the amount of work, effort, and time. So maybe some people do. Maybe I'm doing them a disservice. But playing live is literally about 5% of the work. And it is the most enjoyable, obviously. The other 95% is like loading the gear in at 3 p.m. or midday, loading it, taking it out at like 2 a.m, going back, going to sleep, or going to the hotel, or and then getting breakfast and do it. 95% of it, or is just absolute slog, innit? And we don't do any of that. We probably do about 10%, Luke? 5% playing, 5% writing. It's just so.
Yeah, it's more rehearsing, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, if you think
it's the preparation. It's all preparation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about the whole lead up to, say, a tour. We get all the venues, you get the amount of time you've got, and then you do set lists for each venue depending on how much time you've got, and you rehearse those to death so that it's not a surprise that when you go up there and play, you kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's just the prep. People, as you say, it's a bit like the iceberg, isn't it? Most of it's underwater that people don't see. And it's a bit like, what was it? They asked Jack Nicklaus, "You're lucky." He said, "Yeah, the more I practice, the luckier I get."
Golfer,
yeah.
And that's exactly it, isn't it?
It's all for that like, there's no better feeling though than putting all of that preparation in and being ready to go to the lockup on that first day of the tour, and then just get in the van, and there's just a buzz, and there's no better feeling than knowing that we've got to do is play gigs for the next few days.
Yeah,
it's bliss. I love it. And it's so much worth it. I know, Ron, you do a lot of work, and we just turn up.
No, I don't mind it. As I say, I don't mind it at all. But I've got to go through a process. And I must admit, when you did that gig in Deadwax, I said to Neil, I've lost my process of what we do at a gig. I mean, I was having to rethink about, what do I do now? What do I, because we hadn't done it for so, and that was only like 3, 4, 5 months. God knows what it'll be like when you really start up again. We'll have to have a dry run.
Lifting amps is the one for me. I didn't realise how because we're talking gig fit as well, and when you get gig fit, is like what Luke was saying about, you do 3 or 4 gigs and then you're kind of in that natural mode and you're kind of fine. But loading the gear, unloading the gear, doing sound checks and stuff, you just get a lot quicker at it and snappier at it.
Yeah,
and you don't need to say to people, pick that up, do that, because people just do it.
Just do it.
You're bringing your amp over and I'm picking up the end of it because I just know that's what we do. You lose
that.
That gig kind of like practice, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm gonna get blisters on.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
big time. Yeah. Right.
A lot of my tone comes from my calluses on my fingers, and it's like I don't have any anymore. They're gone. You wouldn't be able to tell I play guitar anymore.
It's going to be so weird.
Yeah, well, I bet you. I said to Neil, I think, you're going to get back in. You're going to try songs that you've done to death. You could do like falling off a log, and you're going to forget what you did.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of relearning and thinking, God, what did I do there? Because
maybe we'll sound like a different band.
I hope we don't sound worse. Right, final question for me then. What's the favourite Blue Nation song and why?
There's a few, and I've written them down, surprisingly.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's written a paragraph on each of them.
He's getting a bollocking now.
Yeah. No. Glasses are on.
I quite like Take Me Back, which Luke probably doesn't even know. It's really old. I just like the energy in that song.
I'm not involved in that one. I don't care.
It's back years. It's just the energy type of thing. And probably the latest stuff is probably Ranger, because again, it's got lots of energy, and you started using that to kick off gigs.
Yeah.
And a couple of people have said to me, and you as well, that as soon as they heard the first song, they thought, I'm going to like this band.
Yeah, it's a good opener, isn't it? It gets people's attention. Grabs your body.
In terms of acoustic, I quite like Sundown. That was a good acoustic song. But yeah.
All right. I've got no more questions. Luke, have you got any questions for the manager?
I think I did earlier, but I can't remember now. Oh, no.
That is literally another insight into our meetings. It's like, Ron, oh no, don't worry about it, it's gone.
Yeah, but the worst one than that is, I'm not saying it's only Luke that does it. I'll say something, tell you about something, and then somebody will ask me a question about what I've already told you.
Oh yeah.
Well, what time we got to be there? I told you that 10 minutes ago. So that's a bit interesting.
It's because we don't have to think about it.
It's because we double check.
Because you're not bloody listening. That's what it is. Because you think, if I need to know that, I'll ask Ron anyway.
Well, yeah. Like, how long we got on this gig again? Oh, I do that all the time. All right, cool. Thank you very much for being on Moving the Spotlight. Oh my God.
I want to ask Luke. When you get back with Noel, can you get me some backstage passes?
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. There are rumours that we are getting back together. Well, wherever it happens, if we don't get along at the moment, whenever I message Noel,
I've heard that.
He never gets back to me.
Your hair is ridiculous, Oasis, at the moment.
Mate,
I think we've all got. Well, I've not.
I'm all right.
You've got a hairdresser in house.
Yeah.
But I think we've all got COVID hairstyles, haven't we?
It's potentially dreadlocking at the moment. It's so thick. It's got the same consistency as a rough collar at the moment.
A rough collar.
Yeah.
A rough Liam.
I'm going to change my name to Lassie.
Yeah. Liam the collar.
Angus has started calling you Foxy after your after your story about the fox with
Oh
Marta.
yeah, the fox. Yeah.
So
yeah,
every time he keeps commenting on stuff, he goes, "How's Foxy doing?" I'm like, "Who the hell's Foxy?" I was like, "It's you."
Yeah, it's big.
I was like,
Yeah.
That's not a bad nickname. I'd take that.
Well,
Alright.
John Entwistle was the ox. I don't mind being the fox.
You can be the fox. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Done.
Yeah.
Sorted.
I like to think of foxes as mods as well. You know, mod foxes.
Mod, you're the fox. That's your new nickname.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'll leave you be. Thank you very much. I'm going to take you
Well,
both
we're
off.
on about
Thank
25 minutes, so you're going to have trouble not editing that down to half an hour.
Oh, no.
Ron, when's the next gig?
Can you ask me a question I know the answer to?
Well, have we got booked there? Have we got any gigs booked?
Right,
I
let
know
me
we have some booked.
let me say goodbye to everyone, and then you can carry on your conversation. Hang on, Jesus Christ! All right, hang on.
It's all in the diary, look.
Okay.
Right, let me say goodbye to everyone, and let you guys. We can chat then. Hang on. Right, so Luke, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye.
Mr.
Goodbye,
Manager.
everybody. Have fun and stay safe.
There you go. Right, that was the latest instalment of Moving the Spotlight. I'm amazed how quickly that went. An hour and 10 minutes of talking absolute drivel. Tune in next week for another Moving the Spotlight with someone else who is behind the scenes in the music industry. Thank you very much. Goodbye.